Well. I did a video which was talking about the squad and what David Moyes might do on the left-hand side of our attacking play. So I've merged that together with this. So this is like a bit that's going on the front of that. So do forgive me if it looks like a bit of a mishmash, because I read as I finished that video that's going out on Saturday morning, I read that David Moyes has suggested that now that the January transfer window is shut, talks will resume on his contract. Now, I know what a lot of people are going to feel about this. We heard the boos that occurred on Thursday night against Bournemouth. Fans were unhappy, not only unhappy with the result, but actually unhappy with the actual way we played. And David Moyes seems really quite confident that despite all the boos, etc., and despite the fact that I think we've had a really poor transfer window, knowing what we needed to get, Moyes is quite confident that he's going to get a new contract now. He said it's out of the way. We'll get back on it now that the transfer window is shut. We're well down the line and moving on with it, with the contract. Now, I don't know how realistic that is. He said we'll pick things up again in the next few weeks. And fans are not happy. Fans are not happy with the way we're playing. Even if you heard my review on Thursday that came out on Friday morning, I was quite unhappy with the way that we're playing. It was awful. The team selection, the imbalance of the squad, of the team itself, not getting the left-hand side right and trying to shoehorn in James Ward-Prowse. That was a tactic that David Moyes used, which failed quite dismally. So for him to be quite confident that he's now going to resume talks about a new contract are really quite interesting. I don't know what to make of it. Moyes, he still wants to be in the job. He said West Ham is a really big club, a club which is growing and getting better. We're nudging it along and taking steps. It's been 4 years of nudging. I think I talked about how much money we spent in the in transfers since Moyes has returned for his second spell at West Ham. We spent a large amount of money, and we shouldn't just be nudging it along anymore. We should have not necessarily the finished article, but certainly one that's a lot more polished than maybe it is at the moment. He said Bournemouth didn't feel like a good step, but when you're sixth at the moment and the position you're in, I want to challenge for competitions. Great, David Moyes. That's fantastic to hear, but it's what you've got to do on the pitch in order to convince us that there is a proper challenge going on. Because if we're going to try and not lose without going out there to try and win, I think the fan base are not going to be with him. There's a lot of fans that already want him to leave. He said, when I came to the club, I said to the players, I don't want to be a club in relegation trouble. That's not the plan. Okay, last season, I'd like to really think it was a blip, considering how we've done over the past 4 seasons in total. And he went on to say, most of the time, we've been away from relegation trouble. We're at a different level now. I'm trying to make West Ham as strong as I possibly can. You had a January transfer window to make West Ham as strong as you possibly can, and you didn't take it. He went on to say, we're doing a lot of good things. Sometimes we'll not do the right thing, but we'll always try to do the best thing. Well, when it came to the January transfer window, we neither did the right thing or the best thing. So Moyes has got a big job on his hands. And I wouldn't be surprised if, even though he's confident that contract negotiations are going to restart, it wouldn't be surprised at all if the board were going to drag their feet a little bit after the January window that we've had. I've heard, from my usual source that yet again, when it came to transfer suggestions, there were names put forward, but Moyes, being David Moyes, has been stubborn yet again in not wanting certain players to come to the club. That's fine. You've got an idea of what you want, but I suggested that Tim Steidten and David Moyes were working hand in hand together now. So Steidten must have understood the kind of players that Moyes wanted, and I can only imagine they're the kind of players that Steidten put forward. But it seems not. So we're still a little bit confused as to who has overall control of transfers. It seems to be David Moyes. But given what's happened now, this is the 2nd January, not in a row, but You know, in 2022, we had a poor January window where we bought nobody. And in this one, well, at least in that one, we didn't sell anyone. But in this one, we've not only gotten rid of 4 players, we've only brought 1 in. So Moyes has got a big job on his hands. If he really wants that contract, he's going to have to really pull out some surprises in the second half of this season. Right, that's it. Now this is going to morph into the original video of talking about the squad, a little bit about transfers, pretty poor as we know, and also about what we're going to do on the left-hand side of our midfield. So stay tuned to watch that as well. The January transfer window for 2024 has shut. Aren't we all pleased? It was quite a laborious task to go through, painful, hopeful, or maybe not so hopeful for a lot of people. Maybe a lot of people didn't think that we were going to do much business. And lo and behold, we didn't do much business. We ended up getting 1 player in, which I guess was more than 2 years ago. Cast your minds back to February 2022. The January transfer window had shut. Moyes was in front of cameras telling us how difficult it was to get quality players in. We ended up with no one. Our league form nosedived. We came up short in Europe. But, okay, we still made it to the semi-finals of the Europa League. But at least in that transfer window, the one thing that we didn't do was get rid of players. Out of the squad of senior players that we had in the 2021-22 season, 20 of them, after the January window had shut, were outfield players. Now, that's not counting academy players. I'm talking about senior players. And of those players, 9 of them made something like 40 appearances or more each, some of them 50-odd appearances in that season, with another 8 making anything between 20 to 40 appearances, which I guess is modest, not bad for a season. But the ones at the top end had made, you know, 45, 47, 48, 50, 54 league appearances, appearances in total. So I guess it was no surprise that when the season was coming to an end, we were, you know, flat out. We were dead on our feet. And we couldn't really sort of get across that finishing line, either in the league to try and just finish a couple of more places up, or winning the Europa League itself. Fast forward to 2024, the January transfer window's just shut. We knew what we needed, but we didn't get what we really wanted. I guess, to be honest, Calvin Phillips is going to be a decent signing. All right, okay. His debut wasn't brilliant. I think he was sent a kamikaze pass by Kurt Zuma. Phillips was a bit sort of slow in response. And so starting your career at West Ham, you're with giving the ball away for a goal wasn't great. But I think he'll come good. I think he'll come good. And guess what? After the transfer window shut, we've got less players now than we had when the window shut in 2022. We've gotten rid of 4 senior players. All right, I've been through them. Some of them, like Connor Coventry and Thilo Kehrer, weren't really playing that much. And of course, Said Benrahma and Pablo Fornals were the other 2 players that had left. Long protracted transfers, but we know on Friday afternoon that they finally left for good. Well, one of them for good, and we all saw the Pablo Fornals farewell video, and the other one, he's not coming back. Said Benrahma, if he manages to keep Olympique Lyonnais in the League One, in the French league, then he'll probably stay for good as well. So with the 19 outfield players that we've got, so far in 33 games, 3 of them have appeared in almost every game. Thomas Souček, 32 games, James Ward-Prowse, 31, and Emerson, 30, with 9 of them having made between 20 and 30 appearances already. And the only one that with less than that is Antonio with 14 appearances because of injury. There's a potential another 23 games to go this season. Well, that's assuming we get to the all the way to the final of the Europa League. All right, I'm wishful thinking, but let's just say for argument's sake, there are potentially 23 games left in this season. And given that we've only got 19 outfield players, again, some of these players are going to end up making 50 odd, or top 40s appearances throughout the season. I wonder at what point the team this season will run out of steam. My guess is, and I hope I'm wrong, is that we'll run out of steam well before the semi-finals of the Europa League. And we might even run out of steam to maintain a top 6 spot in the Premier League in order to gain qualification for Europe for a 4th season in a row. You see, as we all believe, or we are led to believe now, our squad is considerably weaker after the transfer window. Transfer windows are meant to make the squad stronger, but unfortunately, it looks as if we're weaker. We're certainly lower in numbers, but are we weaker? Well, the only thing to do is compare 2022 squad with 2024 after the January windows had shut. Now, you can see a lot of players that were there 2 years ago are still here. So Fabianski, Areola in goal, Ben Johnson, Creswell, Soufal, Ogbonna, Zuma are all still there. Souček is still there. Bowen is still there. And Antonio as well. But of these players, who's better or who's worse or who's not much different from what we had 2 years ago? Well, for me, the better players, Areola has improved now that he's playing regular game time. I think he's been immense. How many points has he saved us this season? He's been absolutely immense. Another improvement or a better player than what we had is Emerson on the left side. Much better than dear old Arthur. Calvin Phillips will come good. I feel guilty for putting him alongside Mark Noble, but I was trying to match like for like as near as damn it. But I think he'll come good, and I think he will be an asset to the squad. Mohamed Kudus, well, you can't argue, can you, that he is better than the option that we had with Vlasic a couple of years ago. And of course, Lucas Paqueta. We all loved Lanzini, but Paqueta is by far a better player than Lanzini. So you've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got half a dozen players there that are better. But then you've got a number of players that are worse than what they were or what we've got or what we had 2 years ago. Aaron Creswell, he was a lot better 2 years ago than he is now. Sort of that's age, doing that. Kurt Zuma, much, much worse than what he was 2 years ago. He can't keep himself fit. And the poor man can't seem to run, can't seem to bend his knees. Dinos Mavropanos, when you compare him to Craig Dawson, I don't think there's any competition there, that Dawson was immense. Thomas Souček, I think he's wilted away. I don't think he's the sort of player that we had a couple of years ago. Mikel Antonio, the same. And then, of course, when you compare Danny Ings to what we had then, Yarmolenko, in my book, Yarmolenko was the better player. You could argue against that. So you got there, what, 1, 2, 3, 4? You got half a dozen players that I think are worse. So we got half a dozen players that have improved the squad or have improved as players. And we've got another half a dozen who have actually gotten worse. And then you've got a lot of players in the middle. So Fabianski, Johnson, Soufal, Ogbonna, Agurd, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, Cornet. They're neither here nor there. No better, no worse than probably what we had 2 years ago. So what does that mean for the balance of the squad? Well, kind of means it doesn't feel as if we're any further forward 2 years on in our quality of squad. We seem to have more or less the same as what we had 2 years ago. So how does that bode for the rest of the season? Well, I've already said it. I think, we're one player shorter. I didn't include Mbama in there, and I do apologize. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to Mbama, but as you can see, I also didn't include a couple of players like Fredericks, etc., who really didn't get an awful lot of game time 2 years ago. So that's why I've kind of put Mbama out on the side there. So I guess with Mbama, you've got 20 players. But then that means we had even more players in 2022, outfield players, available to David Moyes to be able to mix it up a bit. So we've got less players. The gist of this is we've got less players than we had 2 years ago. So even though we've gone and bought a player, we've sold quite a few. And now in terms of size of squad, we're depleted. So when it comes to the rest of this season, it's going to be interesting to see how long we last. Because David Moyes is going to probably do the same as what he did 2 years ago. He's going to flog the same players. Bowen is going to be out on his feet when Paqueta comes back. You can see, you know the players that he's going to use over and over and over again. I just hope they've got the energy and they stay fit in order to be able to see the season out and make it somewhat successful. Now, the other thing with David Moyes, since he's taken over West Ham, is that he's been unable to crack two positions in the squad over and over again. Striker is one of them, and of course, left-sided attacking player is the other. He's been experimenting, over and over again, putting players in square peg. We use the phrase "square pegs in round holes," with not a lot of success. And he did that only just recently when we played against Bournemouth on Thursday, where all of a sudden James Ward-Prowse found himself to be the latest left-sided attacking player, and it didn't work. But then David Moyes had options. He had options either before the game or during the game to try and make it work, to try and change the formation, change players or whatever in order to make it more effective. It was so unbalanced on Thursday. It was excruciating. And we found ourselves yet again that whenever we got the ball and we were looking for an outlet, if Kudus was back defending, there was no one on the left-hand side to pass the ball to. So what's he going to do when it comes to Man United? I mean, we've still got players out. Paqueta's not going to make the game against Man U, so he's not an option. But Moyes has got options if he goes for it. And I'm going to go through one or two of them. First of all, for me, it would make perfect sense to put Emerson further up front. If David Moyes wants to stay with a 4-2-3-1 formation, that's absolutely fine. We know Emerson's got the skill and the pace to be able to play a more advanced left-sided role. So he could, for example, Soufal will be back from suspension. He could, for example, I mean, it doesn't matter what defenders you've got there. I'm just, this is just to illustrate what he can do with Emerson. So he could, for example, put Emerson further up front and put someone like maybe Ben Johnson out on left side, or even Creswell. You take your pick. I don't mind. He could, of course, change formation completely. He can go with a 5-3-2, 5-3-1-1 formation, where, again, it'll be a much more balanced team, where you've got three centre-backs. I put Creswell in there. You could put Ogbonna in there. Agurd's not ready to come back just yet from AFCON, but he will be back soon. And I guess, moving forward, when Agurd's back, he'll be one of the back three. But he can go with a 5 at the back, or a 3-5-2, 3-5-1-1, 5-3-1-1, whatever you want to call it. And again, have Emerson on the left side of that, on the left side of the field, a more further advanced position. That would work. But Moyes has got to be brave to do that. And he's got to make, he's got to either drop Phillips or drop one of the central midfielders in order to accommodate that. If he wants to stick with a 4-3-2-1, fine. Let him stick with a 4-3-2-1 or 4-2-3-1, sorry. But then why not use Maxwell Cornet? I felt sorry for Cornet on Thursday, given 4 minutes of added time to come on and affect the game. It's ridiculous. If you don't trust the player, you shouldn't have kept him. You should have let him go, and you should have gone out and bought or loaned another left-sided attacking player. But given that we've got Cornet for the rest of the season, then why not use him? So put Emerson back in the back four and start with Cornet. Again, it shows that there's a much more balanced side there, rather than trying to shoehorn someone in there that is just so unfamiliar with that position. I guess when the players are... So those are the options that he's got for Man United. He's got quite a few there. He could go with Emerson in a 3 attacking just behind Bowen and putting someone like Johnson as a left back. He can do that and give the side balance. If he wants to, he can change the formation. I've got a feeling he might do that. I'm not fussed about who the back three are going to be. You know, you can put Creswell in there, you can put Ogbonna in there. It doesn't matter. Again, it's just to illustrate the example of what Moyes can do. But he can go with 5 at the back. Again, having Emerson in that wing back role, or he can actually utilize Maxwell Cornet and actually start him in the game. Who knows? You know, all right, it's against Man United, but you don't know, do you? It certainly would be a better balance of the team rather than trying to shoehorn Ward-Prowse over there. You know, having Emerson at the back and then Cornet. But what about when players all come back from injury? Well, what options have we got then? We've got a few. We've got quite a few options. Again, you know, the back four, I guess a Gerd will go in the back four with Zuma, and you'll have Emerson on the left side of defense. And of course, you know, I think the temptation will be to put Lucas Paqueta there. All right, I know we as fans don't necessarily want him to be there. We'd rather he play in the middle, but that is an option that David Moyes can use. And then, of course, you've got you can mix it up in the middle. Antonio will be back soon, and that will mean dropping dear old Souček and maybe even Ward-Prowse, having the 2 solid defensive midfielders there, Alvarez and Phillips, and then having a marauding, roving 3. All right, Paqueta can go on the left, or you can mix it up where you can have other players going on the left. You can have perhaps Bowen out on the left side, Kudus on the right, Paqueta in the middle, and Antonio. But you've got the options there where you can actually mix it up and have players move around. So Moyes has got options. Moyes has got choices he can make. He doesn't have to keep trying to shoehorn players into positions that just don't suit them. We should have gone out and bought ourselves a left-sided attacking midfielder. That was the missing link, really, wasn't it? To at least take us back up to a squad of 20 players, but it hasn't happened. So Moyes has got to make some decisions. He cannot keep picking players that just do not suit the system he wants to play. He either changes, puts either someone like Emerson up, or he puts Cornet there until we have players coming back, or he changes the formation in order to accommodate it and make it more balanced. I don't know what you think. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Going to Manchester United on Sunday. So hopefully we bring in some goals from there. Hopefully not the red goals, but ours. Who knows what can happen? You know, I mean, we might go and surprise them and get something out of that game. But leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Who do you think should be playing out on the left, or what formation do you think Moyes should go for now that we haven't bought ourselves a left-sided attacking player? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.